And we're back! A charred book. There's just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, Council. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered? The owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals startling truth. About the book's owner. I beg your pardon? But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor. After all, it's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand is yet to be answered. However, as for the questions of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defense has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly? Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defense's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book?
Take that!
The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb, the landlords. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know. But of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury in this courtroom today is none other than Miss Garadeb herself. Oh my goodness. Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Garadeb's wife, I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garadeb's house? I would never presume to know all of the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behavior. This woman is the accused's landlady, you say. You implicate this hardworking member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
This is not mere conjecture. The defense happens to know that on the day in question, that almost exactly at the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mr. Garadeb's house. Good lord. What sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it was, happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally's furniture started going up as well. Worst that it is, I lost my favorite book called The Lion's Pride. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, that's the very same title as the subject of this debate. Oh dear me.
Objection!
This is risible, and you've told the court that book that the same name was involved in the fire, in which case it would be reasonable to assume that it was burnt to ashes, and entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself from the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Miss Garadeb was considerably enraged. Apparently she continued to attack Mr. Garadeb even amid the flames. Oh, how awful. I can't even imagine being so horrid to this one you love. Can you, Rolly? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. Had all my favorite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. Then the wife started hurling things at me. There was I, backed up against the window, under heavy enemy fire, incendiary books coming in 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him? Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. No, impossible. No, a thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident, and there is no report of Garadeb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of the broken glass when we visited the Garadeb household. But it is not conceivable that the window was open at the time, and not even remotely. Let us not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. No Londoner will ever leave window open in the middle of winter. Does the defense postulate the scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Miss Garadeb's wife? No. I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Her. I knew it. Well, I hope that everyone can see for you what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward. Really? Claiming that our little stiff set the whole neighborhood alight, honestly? Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake? How could you? It has nothing to do with the beastly case, nor any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you that was never my intention. Dragging upstanding citizens' names through the mud, simply to divert attention from your failing defense. I should box here as that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. To right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now listening to this Nipponi spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with a mustache as he ran away from the scene too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what is it I tell you? Makes sense to me. Huh? Sorry? What's that? Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zeeks? Are we doing another one? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then, one must always exercise patience in order to savor the best vintage. No, wait. The mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been. If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. What? No forgive the discourtesy this time? Ahem. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defense's capability in court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty!
Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now, it's over. Naruto, don't give up. Mr. Sato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at the point. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord, the defense asks to exercise its right to summation. Humph. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. This is no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. I have a feeling we're going to find out a lot in this examination. Mother. I have considered the defense counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defense's judicial right to its procedure. So, counsel, you will now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Yeah, considerable. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed at the accused scene fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene of the committed crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. If I fail to see how it can be argued in any other way. That means I'm afraid that during the summation examination, it's essential that you'd establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those two details are all you need provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was concluded. And there I was thinking it might be hard. But not a hodo, you have to do it. Otherwise, this really will be where the trial ends. No pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you are prepared, counsel. My canon theory is coming to light, man. Clearly, the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid. Or should I say Miss Garrideb. We have a book that disappeared from the Garrideb's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique we've learned from my short career so far, whatever it takes. Your canon theory is poppycock! Don't forget to keep the eye on Miss Garrideb, how she reacts, even when things other people say.
Hold it!
There were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book belonged to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point that the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the Nipponese fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it? Suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. Damn, this music. With some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. So, as you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face. But I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern metropolitan and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see? Modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by an overwhelmingly strong testimony. But despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Also, isn't she talking kind of like the Japanese guy? Just a little bit? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you admitted rational there. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? We need to prove that the window was open. But what about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, the window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Then what's the point of even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, I'm sorry. Somehow I need to show there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There really no such thing as loving incendiary bomb. When he brought it up himself, it was playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have arisen out of your misunderstanding, Miss Garrideb. Never mind that. The point is we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. And I won't be having any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with this crime. Right, well, we'll see about that. But what about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Miss Garrideb's relentless onslaughts. Almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is. Books are harmless. John Wick, pencils are harmless. Look, anyone gets this over with. You just want to get this over with. How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, him and me both in, like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day laborer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening that the thing, I must have blocked it out. Helpful. I wonder if Miss Beat will ever be dragged into Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Miss Sato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's capability in this case? Sorry, what was that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about the fire? It was last winter my grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did! What a sight to behold it was! Holy fuck! On a cake. Was it some kind of devil worship? Of course not, it was an angel cake. Celebrate my birthday, of course. Seems that it was common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I must mustered all my puff to blow him out. Only I must have blown the wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but the candles weren't flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like a devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold. But how did you catch a cold from a fire? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, they threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course. We had to open all the windows to clear it. Thank you! Sin mod for Guilty Gear Strive. No, I didn't. Is that an actual mod, or is it like a mod, or are we talking like actual character? Because I did see the latest character. I'm okay with her. Or him. I don't know. Gender ambiguous. We had to open all the windows to clear it. The windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing in grave it did. It caught a terrible cold from it, and it put me in the hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. I knew it was devil worship all along. Something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. Who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman in the street? As well as how he or she could have done it. Yes, but once again, the jurors' statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced that they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. Yeah, I think you're going to need to pit them against each other for forcing them to accept their alternative explanation. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions. Just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go on for a strike. That's the spirit.
Objection.
The two juror statements clearly contradict one another. They do. How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. Huh? What's that you say? Speak up, lad. Speak up. Juror number 3, did you see? Oh, me. See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... He realized. He realized right there. Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadeb household, and Mr. Garadeb had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke.
Oh my.
Excuse me.
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Miss Garadeb. Oh, dearie me. What was the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the patience pretense now. What is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you and your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon. What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, alright then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window, which can't have been easy since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire? Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nurse to do otherwise. Of course, I should have realized. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. We simply must have that added to Mr. Garadeb's formal statement. Now you mentioned, yes, the window was open at the time. I'd clean forgotten, but it's true.
Objection.
These two statements clearly contradict each other. I'm sorry, but as foreman of the jury, I have to object. That completes nonsense. What? I'm a banker, don't forget, and I'm an educated man. And there's no contradiction as far as I can see. Quite so, Mr. Foreman. I will not permit whimsical attacking against a good member of the jury council. What? There's nothing whimsical about it. Okay. It's very important to listen carefully to every jury. That didn't count? Okay, but it's a mod, so I probably won't play it. And yeah, I get it. Honestly, my Guilty Gear lore, I've never grew up on that shit. So, that was honestly like my first time seeing that character. The only one... I actually might have seen it. Maybe one of the old Guilty Gear games, but I never really liked the design. So I just ended up picking Brigitte. Or Bridget. He has a past form, though. Like, he was in an older game. Oh, sorry. That person was in an older game. Sorry, I forgot to do them. But...
Hold it.
I'm trying to figure out where to go with this while I talk. testament.
Hold it!
The fourth book found that the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garrideb told us he'd been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband the copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. And now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on as well, you know. I have a question. If she threw that book at him first, it wasn't the thing that started the fire. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it.
Excuse me.
Testament was boss the original Guilty Gear? Oh, cool. Okay, but even back then, I might have played the original Guilty. I think I played the one on PlayStation 2. Was Testament not in that? I know there was invisible traps. What's wrong, juror number 5? You know something. I've remembered what it was. That memory I blocked out. Ah. It was listening to what this granny was saying. Brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Miss Garrideb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home from after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh, the wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost a day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall next to me it did, about an inch deep. No words, just terror. I could smell it then, you know, the god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down on that muddy banks that night, I could tell you. Now, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When a woman loses their rep, they'll throw anything at you, knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. Donato, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. Susato, you're in no position to deny. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like, or a Susato takedown. Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could really be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. A woman in rage will hurl almost anything at you.
Objection.
Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? What do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room at the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household on the street below. What's that now? After all, Mr. McGarrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? Yeah, I'm beginning to think that, ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now listen here, you Eastern Gullah. As a foreman of the jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it? I'm really taking a big gamble here. My canon theory's down, but I'm down with the theory that this could be a thing. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defense's theory. The other object found its way from the Garadev household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Miss Garadev. What? What now? I must apologize in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah. Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged in the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. Mary Garadev were in the throes of an argument. Miss Garadev was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against a window. A window that had just been opened up to clear some smoke, through which a book sailed and landed at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that the book was found in the victim's grasp. Are you saying that it flew out the window, across the street, and landed neatly in her hand? Huh, even my missus hasn't got a name like that. Yes, I admit there are many details we don't know yet understand, but at this point, that's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end, not right now. Miss Garadev, your answer please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, oh no. My lord, I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madame. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now, with so many unanswered questions. Mr. Foreman? I'd have to agree. Not in that I think the granny did it, mind. Yeah, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. But the old man didn't. We did it? Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defense's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors call guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of the court is divided, and its trial will continue. Now then, Lord Van Zeeks, how does the prosecution wish to proceed? This trial is rapidly descending into a farce. Like a corked wine, the first few sips are bitter enough. But what follows is so repugnant, it's good for nothing to save the gutter. If I may, Lord Van Zeeks. The defense has just put forward a credible alternative explanation for what happened. Credible? Is that your considered opinion, Mr. Foreman? The defense's argument is a joke to which I barely know how to respond. But let me start by insisting. Now, you must all familiarize yourself better with the relative positions of those places being discussed. What do you mean by that? What's his angle this time? It should already be more than apparent that between the crime scene and a Garadev household runs a rather wide street, Briar Road. I was thinking about the distance as well, which means that the distance from the Garadev's house to the scene is some, yes, 15 yards, which is a lot. Let me see. 15 yards. It's around 14 meters. 14 meters? Oh, that's a little farther than I imagined. And as you ladies and gentlemen of the jury rightly notice, having pertinent significance, the fourth book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, the smoldering book wantonly hurled by the lady of the house traveled some 15 yards to land on the opponent's side of the road, nearly between the collapsed victim's fingers and thumb? Is that your final conclusion, my learned and deluded friend? And did the jackknife follow a near identical trajectory to plunge in the middle of the victim's back? This fantasy is somewhat stretching the notion of having a bad day for the victim, I think. Even those pathetic serialized detective stories have more believable plots. There's nothing I can say to that. That prosecutor loves the sound of his own voice. Mr. Sato. Serialized detective stories are pathetic, are they? How dare he? Maybe let's pick our battles here. My lord, might I be allowed to speak? A judicial assistant, you may speak for the defense, yes. Go ahead. The prosecution may consider the idea of fantasy, but what the defense has postulated was believable enough to persuade the jury to change its meaning, and as such, the court has a duty to explore this alternative explanation as thoroughly as possible. To that end, juror number 4, Miss Joan Garadeb, must be called to testify and submit to a cross-examination. Saints alive! A cross-examination of a juror? Order, order, order. Well, this is highly irregular. It is unprecedented for a member of the jury to be summoned to the witness stand.
Objection!
And unnecessary. Lord Van Zeeks. There are already witnesses in the stand whose testimony and defense may further cross-examine. If my learned friend's farcical theory has any truth to it, then both a burning book and a jackknife must have been flown through the sky before this couple's eyes. And we must assume they would have been able to testify accordingly. What say you, witness? Yes, Constable Rolly Beat reporting for duty, sir. You almost forgot they were there. Well, good morning, officer. Sorry for dozing until now. Sir, I haven't slept for a month on account of the villain who's appeared on my beat, sir. Oh, they are so heroic, these London bobbies. Listen, my darling, I've been neglecting you, but no more. Oh, Rolly, my hero, you make me swoon. Very well, I hereby reject the defense's request. Oh. And order the witnesses in the stand to testify again. State forthwith before the court any details pertaining to the defense's alternative explanation of events. Yes, sir. He's not letting me. The case has nothing to do with Mr. Garadeb. Believe me, London Bobby is good for his word. You see, sir, the windows of the top floor of the Garadeb house are top hinged casements. Obviously, if anything had been thrown out of the window, we would have seen it. I did leave the scene to go fetch help, but my trusty Robbie was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment, sir. Nothing straight to report on that front, sir. Well, this is quite startling. Top hinged casement windows. That detail was not on the police report, Constable. Ah, yes, sorry about that. I must have been a little drowsy. Ahem. You cannot excuse your sins with drowsiness every time, Constable. No, sir. What exactly is a top-hinged casement window? And you cannot excuse your ignorance with such trite remarks, my learned friend. He's only been there like 3 days. Of course, sorry. I found it, Mr. Naruhodo. Cast your mind back to the windows to Mr. Garadeb's room. Alright, I'll try. So the window opens in order to allow the air to circulate inside the house. Like that. But as it's a top-hinged casement window, it swings open along the upper edge, you see. I'm glad you've rectified your ignorance. The casement window's most prominent feature. That's a weird fucking window. I've never seen a window open like that. As its stay, a metal bar which prevents the window from being opened beyond a certain amount. It prevents it from opening. It's all news to me. Absolutely correct, sir. In other words, if a book or knife were to have been thrown through an open window, it would have clattered against the pane and fallen straight down to the pavement below. No. You see the problem then? Good. Your education in windows is complete. There was never any possibility of either the book or the knife traveling 15 yards over the road. That is, unless the window pane had been shattered. Something we've discounted already. That can't be. Do you see that, Rolly? The young Japanese man just collapsed in agony. Oh, yes, my darling, I saw it. I saw how he crumbled before me. Oh, Rolly, you're so strong. How is this happening? I haven't even started the cross-examination yet. And already my argument's been destroyed. Counsel, if you could drag yourself up right again, the court awaits your cross-examination. My lord? Oh, good. Another desperate situation.
Hold it!
How can you say that for certain? A very good question, sir. And the answer is this. It has the noble founding principles of the force written on it. The reminder of all policemen of our sworn duty. He showed us that before, didn't he? Did he? I can't say I remember. To patrol the state streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. It's what the job's all about. And that is why I can stand here today beside my long-suffering wife and tell you that Bobby's good for his word. While rubbing my tired eyes admittingly. Sir. Oh, Rolly, you're so manly. Of course I am, my darling Patricia. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. No, none of this is what I meant. I meant, how can you say for certain that this case has nothing to do with Mr. and Miss Garrett? Ah, I see, sir. Should have said so earlier, sir. Yes, well... So could you answer the question? That was a waste of time, then. Absolutely, sir. I will answer to the fullest of my ability, sir. There's a surprising reason why Mr. and Mr. Garrett's domestic dispute can't be related to this case. But before I get into that, sir, just one thing. Yes? I'd very much like you and all your countrymen to understand the great British institution of Scotland Yard. So I hope you'll take back some tales of us London bobbies and how we uphold our guiding principles. I wasn't planning on going back just yet. I only just arrived here. So now that I'll be happy to lend you my warrant card for your perusal. But I must warn you, you won't be able to get through it without shedding a few tears. Thank you. I'll try. What, really?
Hold it!
By which you mean they don't open fully, is that correct? Yes, sir. They're just there to allow a bit of air through the house, you see, so they're restricted as to how much they open. And therefore anything thrown out of the window from the inside of the room would simply strike the pane and fall to the street directly below. For clarity, allow me to mark the map. Here, in the location where objects would have fallen. Other side of the road. It would have been so hard for somebody to mention this top hinge casement thing before. Well, I have another question for you, Constable. And what would that be, sir? How do you even know? Why wouldn't you have any idea what sort of windows Mr. McGarrett's house is furnished with? Well, sir, that's very simple. You see, I helped with the investigation yesterday.
Excuse me.
Do you have something to add, Miss Beat? Sorry? You look, well, delighted. Is there some particular reason for that? Oh, I'm okay. I was just remembering that's all. We really were so lucky. Lucky? What do you mean? Well, of course I feel terrible for the poor woman who was attacked. Don't misunderstand me, please. But we were just so lucky it didn't happen on Rolly's beat. It was so close, you see. Oh, I hadn't realized. Oh yes, that street, Briar Road. That's the boundary between Rolly's beat and the next one. Is that right, my love? Constable Beat. Huh? Oh, yes, that's right. That's the reason I was helping out with the interviewing the occupants of the Gareb household yesterday. Their house is on my beat, you see, sir? That really was cutting it close then. Constable, I wonder if you could clarify something. If the Garredub's household is on your beat, does that mean the pavement next to it as well? Outside Mr. Garredub's house? Yes, ma'am. The pavement on that side of the road is part of my beat. I see. I was unaware of that. Just think, if the woman had been attacked just on the other side of the Briar Road, we would never have been able to go for that meal and celebrate our wedding anniversary. But that's the life of a Bobby, after all. Extraordinary people are Bobbies, tirelessly working for the benefit of all Londoners. Do you know what I think? I think it was good a Lord's way of rewarding Rolly for all his hard work. Don't you think so, my darling? That must be it, Pat, my love. That must be it. So why are they on the opposite side of the beat? I think perhaps we should make sure we have that information officially on record. Leave it to me, Naruhodo. I'll take care of it immediately. And now it's my turn, I think.
Hold it!
But according to my notes here, the sun had gone down already after it was dark. Oh, but Rolly and I were strolling along, gazing in the night sky, looking for a lucky star. Sorry? The star will guide us to eternal happiness. Can it guide you to answer the question? If a flaming book had cut across the sky in front of us, it would have lit up like a shooting star. And if I'd seen a shooting star, I would have made a wish upon it. Let Rolly be an inspector, I would have said. 3 times at least. Of course, what with the smog and everything, we couldn't actually see any stars. In short, are you trying to say that neither a book nor a knife crossed the sky before you? Yes, sir, that is correct, sir. As sure as the night sky in London is starless. Certainly does seem like they're telling the truth. And then we saw the poor woman fall to the ground, so we ran straight over to help her. I did leave the scene to go fetch help. My trusty Rolly was there to make sure nothing was disturbed. But he didn't have to. I'm going to lose a point for this, but... When a crime discovered on his beat, a policeman must assist with initial investigation and help detectives. But it's not on his beat. He went to get another beat.
Objection.
Firing row. Ouch. I just wanted to point out that he did... You invited, sir. Well, let's press it.
Hold it!
Yes, you said that you went to a nearby police box to fetch another officer. Is that right? That's right, yes. If it had been on Rolly's beat, I would have known exactly where I was going, of course. Don't feel bad, my love. You can't be expected to know the location of every police box on every beat. So Rolly told me the way. Only, I sort of got a little lost on the way. Trisha, my darling, that's why I love you. Your terrible sense of direction is bewitching to me. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Oh, please. So I suppose I was gone for about 15 minutes. But like I said, my Rolly was at the scene of the whole time, making sure nothing was disturbed. I was off duty at the time, of course, but a true Bobby is never really off duty, sir. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene for one moment. Nothing strange to report on that front, sir. Not even the fire? Nothing to report. That's correct, sir. I had my eyes wide open the entire time, never looked away for a second. No one else approached the scene, and nothing was removed from it. I can swear to that on the yard's honor, sir. Really? That seems a little strange. Beg your pardon, sir? Strange, sir? Seems altogether regular to me. This burnt copy of the Lion's Pride was originally in the Garradeb's household. So the question remains, how did it find its way into the hand of the victim? Can you shed any light on that, seeing as you were at the scene of the crime the entire time? Aha! Could it be a different copy, sir? One just happened to be burnt as well? Even if that were possible, why would the victim have been gripping a book like that in her hand? As we can see from this photographic print, she had a bag over her shoulder. Well, sir, the book was in the lady's hand from the moment we arrived on the scene. Is that so? There's something about this statement that's not sitting right with me. The two mysteries of how the knife ended up in her back and how the book ended up in her hand. There must be something common thread between them. Can I ask you something? Please, Mr. Lawyer, sir? Oh, yeah, sure. Of course, what is it? You're doubting us, aren't you? I can tell. What? Oh, is she gonna give us some extra info? I mean, what is she doing? Please, just because I'm a woman doesn't make my testimony any less valuable. You might just see me as the wife of a policeman, but I'm a woman of my word, I am. I really don't remember ever suggesting that I doubted you. No excuses, I don't want to hear it. My voice will be heard. Let me speak, won't you? Yes, Miss Beat. I will allow you to supplement your testimony if you so desire. Sometimes the path of least resistance is the sage one. That was a very loud mutter. I heard that. The Japanese man thinks a police wife's word counts for nothing, does he? We will watch out, sir. I might let you get away with something like that, but my Rolly won't. Duly noted, Miss Beat. Please, I humbly ask you to continue. What could she possibly be about to say, I wonder? She's gonna mess everything up again. I know what I saw, my eyes never let me down. My sense of direction is a little off sometimes, though. I didn't take my eye off the crime scene.
Hold it!
Miss Beat, nobody is questioning what you've told us. I saw it, I did the evening. I saw it clearly. Little Eastern man with his whiskers and funny curved back, sinking away from the scene. Huh. And I know what I didn't see as well? I didn't see any flaming books or knives flying through the sky. All very clear. You also mentioned something about having a poor sense of direction. Oh, yes, well, that's a little embarrassing, really. I've always ended up at the wrong place when I've made arrangements to meet Rolly. He ever gets so cross.
Excuse me.
Constable Beat, is there a problem? Yeah, no, sir, no problem, sir. Did your wife's remark just now bring up something to mind, perhaps? Oh, well, in a way, sir, yes, sir. I was just remembering that the same thing happened that evening, is all. You mean Miss Beat lost her way on the night of the incident? Well, you see, I sent her off to find a police box in the next beat over from mine, but she was gone a fair bit longer than what I was expecting. I thought she'd be back inside 10 minutes, but my darling was gone a good 15. Oh, Raleigh, you're such a tease. But the reason I was so long is because the bouquet, silly. The bouquet? Sorry? What bouquet are you talking about? Oh, it was a present for our wedding anniversary. Really so romantic. He saved up for things and happenings and found the gutter while doing his rounds. Yes, how romantic. I'd forgotten all about it until just now. Had you, my darling? Ah! Oh, yes. But that was just between us. No talking about it to anyone else, darling. You have to promise. Really? Oh. What was that all about? Constable Bean looked very obviously troubled during that exchange. I'm afraid I can't offer any useful insight, Mr. Naruhodo. But I'm quite sure one thing. We have to ask Miss Beat about the bouquet. Miss Beat, this bouquet you just mentioned. I'd like you to add details about it to your testimony, please. Oh, really? Yes, I'd love to.
Hold it!
You mean you dropped the bouquet at the scene of the crime? Yes, that's right. Oh, I was so upset. When we ran over, I saw it was a woman with a knife in her back. I was shocked. I dropped the bouquet Rolly gave me. I was in a dark spot where the streetlights weren't casting any light. So I didn't notice it. And then you went to the police box report until the policeman whose beat it was on. Yes, and I came back to the scene together with the other constable, you see. That's when I spotted my bouquet again. But the funny thing was, when I went to pick it up, it was nowhere near the victim's body at all. In case you need reminding, Miss Beat, the victim is not deceased. I was all flustered for a moment before I heard a voice calling me from the other side of the road. Your husband, presumably. That's right, silly me. I'd gone over to the wrong side of the street. Although I'm going to blame the bouquet on this time. I can't think of how it got there. I really can't. So the bouquet somehow moved out from one side of the Briar Road to the opposite. Curious indeed. Isn't it? But the worst of it is I forgot to pick up the bouquet again when we left the scene. That beautiful rose really bought me with the change in the gutter he spent so long collecting. By bouquet, do you perhaps mean this sorry solitary rose? Oh. Oh, yes, that's it. That's a bouquet really bought me for our anniversary with old bit change found in the gutter. Maybe just call it a rose. Tell us, Lord Van Zeeks, where did you come by this flower? According to the report by the police officer in charge of the crime scene investigation, it was found on the edge of the pavement in front of the fuck. Although it wasn't noticed until the morning, as it lay where the street lamps cast no light. It was believed to be of no relevance to the case since it was found on the opposite side of the thoroughfare. Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Could I have it back now, please? No, you may not! No, I think for good measure this rose should be added to the court record as evidence. Oh. You agree, rest assured that I shall do my very best not to forget, Miss Beat.